Hey, everybody. So this is really fun. We are here to talk about the latest Pixar film. We're talking about Cars 3. This is going to be a spoiler podcast, spoiler analysis. We're going to be talking about the details of the film. And my friend AJ is here. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, hi, everybody. First of all, I'm AJ, like Rachel said. Let's see, I am a writer for rotoscopers.com. That's kind of my animation cred, I guess you could say. And then I also write over at my own blog, which is called The Vintage Vestibule. And over there, I write about live action film and whatever else strikes my fancy at any given time. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. We both write for Rotoscopers, and we both love films and animation in particular. And so this is a lot of fun. This is the first time we've been able to do a podcast together for quite some time, so I'm looking forward to it. And talking about Cars 3. Who never thought we'd have 3 Cars movies?
I know.
So let's before we start talking about Cars 3, let's talk about Cars and Cars 2 and our sort of thoughts on those films. And I was able to rewatch them this week, and I have my review of both Cars 1 and Cars 2 will post tomorrow for Family Movie Night, so everybody can look forward to that, I guess. And so I'm curious for what are your thoughts about the first Cars movie? Let's talk about that one first.
Well, I love the first Cars movie. I'll just say that up front.
Mm-hmm.
I'd give it 4.5 stars. I think it's almost perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds kind of weird to say about a Cars movie. I actually think the racing action kind of slows things down in that one for me. For me, that's the least interesting part of that first movie. But which will be interesting when we get to Cars 3 because that's all racing stuff.
Right.
But I really just love the warm feeling of that one and like the Americana that the movie is steeped in and all the Route 66 stuff and the car culture and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, I love that part about it too. I love the idea of sort of thinking about the Americana that we've lost and Main Street USA and how that's gone. And so it has a huge heart to the film that I think works really well. And I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it. It especially feels like the kind of movie you can put on like Thanksgiving. I think I actually recommended it in my movies to watch on Thanksgiving last year because it just has, it's sort of there's just an old-fashioned, almost Norman Rockwell feel to the Cars movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of like how it feels different than a lot of other Pixar movies because you associate Pixar with like big, bold, I don't know. I don't want to say like big, bold moves and actions, like really innovative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where Cars just kind of feels warm and just comfortable, almost like movie comfort food, which is why it's good to watch on Thanksgiving, like you were saying.
Yeah,
it's just,
exactly. And it is good for kids to sort of have these conversations and talk about the things that we have lost and the things that we've gained. You know, we can have that conversation. And I think that the voice work is great in this first Cars movie. I think that it is beautiful. The scenes where they're driving when Sally and Lightning go on a date, I think is really good. That's probably my favorite section.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack is so good. We're gonna talk about that with all 3 of these films. But one of the things that the Cars movies became kind of famous for is their great soundtracks. And they have lots of cool covers from different artists. And in this one, you have beautiful segment and a song by James Taylor that I love, and showing sort of the decay of small town America. And it's really, really good sequence.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite song from the movie, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's closely followed by Real Gone by Sheryl Crow, the opening song.
I also love Life is a Highway from Rascal Flatts. That's so catchy. Very, very catchy song. So it works. I think on a rewatch for me, the only thing is I do feel like it does sometimes feel a little bit too languid for me. It just, sometimes I do find myself getting a little bored with it. I just feel like it could be a little bit tighter, you know, a little bit. And I find myself kind of getting a little sleepy in certain sections, but I really do enjoy the film. I like it a lot. I like all the Pixar movies. Maybe that makes me a fanboy, but I recognize flaws, but I genuinely don't think they made a horrible movie yet, personally.
Yeah, I would agree with that pretty much. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't dislike any of the Cars movies, I will say that.
Okay.
The only Pixar movie that's kind of hard for me to watch is Brave. That one's kind of hard for me to get into. But
it's my least favorite as well, actually, surprisingly. I don't hate it, but I think that at least the Cars movies, they tell the story they're setting out to tell.
Yeah.
Like Cars 2 is trying to be a spy movie with cars, and that's what it is. Yeah. Whereas Brave, I feel like it fails in telling the story that it's setting out to tell. And that's my biggest flaw with Brave. You know, yeah. it sets up the first 15 minutes. It's like, oh my gosh, it's going to be this great, like, there's going to be sword fighting. It's going to be a great adventure. It's going to be Princess Bride all over again. And then it's just like, they turn into bears. So yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but it's my least favorite also. So that's interesting. So let's talk about Cars 2. So that's the one that most people, I would say, don't like, or is at the bottom of most people's rankings. Would you agree?
Yeah, it would be at the bottom of my ranking, but I don't hate it with the burning passion that a lot of other people seem to hate it.
Right. Okay, fair enough. And, you know, so I watched it again, and one of the, it's a flawed film, but I don't mind watching it. I think that there's fun to be had in it. I think particularly the opening action scene with Finn, you know, it's kind of spying on these cars, I think is enjoyable. I like it, and I love the animation. When you see like the different cities and the cityscapes, you see all the lights in Tokyo. It looks gorgeous, and I like the racing sequences genuinely. I think the only part that I don't like is that I think that you do get too much Mater. It does get a little tiresome after a while. And yeah, but I don't know. And the plot, the plot of the villain is very convoluted. But I still think there's enjoyment to be had.
Yeah, definitely. And my big problem with the movie, I think the primary reason why I don't enjoy it is the same as yours. I think there's too much Mater in it for me. Mm-hmm. Like, I think Larry the Cable Guy is not a comedian that's for everybody.
Right.
Definitely not. And I think if he's not for you, it's very easy. I get tired of his shtick very quickly. Right. And a movie where he's the main character is not for me. Mm. And so, but I like a lot of the things that you mentioned too. Like, I like the action sequences. I think they're really well done. And the racing sequences. I love seeing Bruce Campbell in his cameo as the American secret agent. Anything that he's in is okay with me.
That's true.
And then Michael Caine is really good. And then, unfortunately, I didn't get to see this one recently, so I'm kind of fuzzy on this one. Unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, well, we don't have to talk about it anymore. But I think there is enjoyment. I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. I think because Pixar is so great, that people are especially hard on it. But I've seen way worse animated films. In my opinion, I don't know. I think personally, well, never mind. I'm not even going to get into that. But I've seen way worse animated films. Let's just put it that way. Than Cars 2. So okay, so let's get into Cars 3. So what was your overall response to this entry in the series?
I thought it was a good, solid movie. Like, I didn't. That's kind of my standard phrase that I use for when I like a movie. Fine. When I think a movie's good, I'd say that on Twitter a lot. But I just thought it was good. Like, Cars 1 is still my favorite Cars movie. I will say that. But I liked Cars 3. I liked how it was different from the first two films, and yet kind of the same as the first movie. It kind of took some of the themes from the first movie and kind of looked at them in a different way and kind of put them in the context of a different kind of movie, I guess.
Okay.
But, and I love, the way it looked and everything. And we'll get more into the details.
Yeah, I definitely like got into some of the sort of pacing and heart and feeling of the first film while sort of making it its own thing. And that's one of the cool things about Pixar is they don't want to be a studio that just makes a sequel. You know, like I remember when the Hangover movies came out, I haven't seen, but they were like Hangover 2 is exactly like Hangover 1. It's just in a different city.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of sequels do that. You know, it's just like it's the exact same story, but it's just in a different city or different, you know, one's minor difference. And that's not what Pixar does. Every single one of their sequels is not only like completely different story, but it's in a completely different genre of films.
Yeah.
So like your first Toy Story is a buddy movie. The second one is like a search and rescue adventure. The third one is a prison escape movie. So, and then Monsters Inc. You have your you know your first movie, and then the second one you've got a college kind of movie, and you can do that with all of them. Maybe Finding Dory a little bit less so. That's the only one maybe I could kind of say that they're a little more similar sort of genres, but that's just one of the things they do really well, and I like that. It makes it unpredictable. You don't know where you're going to get.
Yeah.
And so with this one, you know, you have your nostalgia, your Main Street USA first film, then second film, you have your spy movie, third film, you have your sports movie, which is really interesting.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Because when you first look at Cars 3, at least from the trailers, you kind of think, oh, this looks really similar to the first Cars movie. In the kind of story, like at least I thought so. After I saw the second trailer, that was like the more considerably lighter trailer. I kind of thought, oh, this kind of looks similar, but they're kind of two different genres of movies, like you said. Cars 1 is kind of interesting because it's a coming of age movie where the character is not a kid; he's kind of a young guy. Yeah, he's a car, but he's coming of age.
That's true.
Kind of a dramedy, and then like you said. It's kind of weird to think of Cars 3 as the first sports movie in the franchise when all three of them feature racing.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of weird. I mean, they all have racing in them, but it's the first one where you had sort of those beats of a sports movie.
Yeah.
You know, with the underdog kind of beats and the sort of the villain team, the foe. The rivalry, I guess you might say, team that you have in sports movies. A lot of those elements are there here. So yeah, I really enjoyed Cars 3. I thought that it was a solid animated film. I as you put it. I thought the animation was great. I thought that the characters were really charming. The racing sequences were great. I thought it was an enjoyable. I like sports movies, and so I was cheering by the end. It was a lot of fun. The only real downsides to me about it is I did feel again that a couple parts in the middle, we're going to talk about them, got a little boring for me, and so there were some pacing problems. But overall, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I kind of had the same issue. Like my only downside with it is I felt like the first half of the movie was good, but I didn't really feel like it kind of knew where it was going for a little while. I don't know, to me. Like it felt like a lot of really good scenes, but they weren't really clicking together as a story for me.
Okay.
And then the second half, when they go into like the Great Smoky Mountains, like the South, looking for Docksmith
for Smokey.
Yes, for Smokey. That's when the movie finally started to like really come together for me. And then
I kind of agree. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But okay, so now we're gonna. If anybody's watching and you don't want spoilers, now we're really gonna get into the nitty gritty of the plot. So if you want to stop watching, then you can. But it starts out with this opening scene where you get to see how it's a sort of a montage in a way. You get to see how Lightning's doing on the circuit, right? And he's doing really, really well. But then all of a sudden, there's this new car, Jackson Storm. And he's this really fast racer, this new car, and there is this amazing race sequence that we've seen in the trailers where there's this crash. But what do you think of all of that, of kind of that sort of setup?
Well, for a little while on Twitter before the movie came out, I was kind of saying, oh, this looks a lot like Rocky to me, like Rocky 3 or Rocky 4. And this is kind of this first part was the part where I kind of really saw that a lot. Like there's a sequence at the beginning of Rocky 3 where Rocky has just won the championship, and you see him do, like, winning all these fights in this opening montage, the Eye of the Tiger montage. You see him winning all these fights and doing, like, credit card commercials and all these endorsements and stuff. I was like, hey, it's the same thing as Rocky 3 at the beginning of this one.
Yeah.
And
no, it's really similar. It's kind of funny. You're like, okay, there we go. Yeah.
And then Jackson Storm. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then Jackson Storm reminds me a lot of his opponent in Rocky 4, Drago, the big Russian guy. Especially in the he trains and stuff like that. Like, whenever they show him training, it kind of reminds me of that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, me too. It was pretty funny. They definitely were looking at those films. There's no way they weren't. And but man, that crash, like, I thought, oh, it's not going to be as impactful because we've already seen part of it in the trailer. At least to me, it was jaw-dropping. It was so, like, I don't know. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done and really intense in the way that they did it. It's like, and I like how they juxtapose the way that Lightning and the other racers, like, communicate with each other as opposed to the way that Lightning and Jackson communicate with each other. Like, with the others, it's kind of a friendly rivalry between the two. Like, they act like they poke fun at each other a lot. They tease each other and mock each other, but you can tell that it's all in fun and that there's like a mutual respect.
Yeah.
And Jackson Storm acts like there's a respect between him and Lightning, but you can tell just by the way that he talks and by the look on his face, can tell.
He's kind of patronizing.
Yeah. To
Lightning, and so he, like, says the right thing, but in sort of a patronizing kind of way.
Exactly.
And I don't know, what did you think of this whole idea of this sort of theme of Lightning getting older as sort of it seems, and on one hand, it seems like this is such a weird message for a kid's movie to be about aging and getting older and stuff, but but I don't know. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, this is, like, I didn't think of it as in a context of, I wonder how the kids around me are reacting to this, because there were a lot of kids when I went to see it this afternoon.
Sure.
Obviously. But anyway, that's kind of off topic. But I was kind of thinking of it in terms of, wow, this is a plot that's probably going to get a lot more relevant to me the older I get. You know.
Yeah, and I do think that it's actually a good thing. I'm glad they did it, because I think that too often our culture now is very dismissive to senior citizens, to people that are getting older. We have this weird ageism kind of thing sometimes going on. And so I think it's actually, like, positive in a way that maybe after they watch this, like, parents can, it sounds weird. How could a car movie help facilitate these kinds of discussions? But I think that it actually could. And so I thought it was a positive thing, a positive message, and a positive thing that they did for the plot.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of like, speaking of what you were saying about older people and the way that they're treated, I kind of like how, and we'll get to this later, because it happens later, it's where it really comes up, is the idea that the secret to staying relevant is to look back at your roots and look back at the people who inspired you.
Yeah, that's very true.
But like I said, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, a lot more later.
Well, and also the idea that we think that technology can give us all the answers, when in reality, sometimes it's actually looking back and talking to people that have had that life experience where the answers really are.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right. So they bring back, so he gets very injured. He's very depressed. And what do you think about them bringing back Doc Hudson / Paul Newman, his clips as his mentor? What did you think about that?
Well, on a personal level, I thought it was really moving, because Paul Newman is my favorite movie star of all time. And just hearing his voice again, I mentioned this on Twitter, so if you follow me, you've already seen what I said about this. But it almost moved me to tears, literally. I had a lump in my throat just hearing him talk again, just having him back. It made me
I
realize
thought it
how
was
much
amazing that they were able to get, like, I know that they did these interviews and everything, but still, like, that they were able to get that perfect of words that fit perfectly into sort of the story. And I thought that was kind of incredible.
Yeah, it was. And, like, I guess on the story level, like, I think it's neat. I think it goes back to what we were just talking about. It's like the theme of aging and continuing to stay relevant by looking into the past and taking those lessons and applying them to the future.
Yeah. Well, I related to it as well because I've always been a big mentor person. I've always been somebody that has people that that kind of help me. I'm a very independent person, but I would find, like in college, I would find my favorite professor and I would take every class that they had and develop this kind of this mentor sort of relationship, I guess. Some of my other leaders, church leaders and teachers, I was always somebody that surrounded myself with mentors. And so it was something I relate to, and sort of that idea of Lightning finding sort of that encouragement through Doc was something I related to. It was good. Yeah. So I agree.
And that kind of, oh, sorry.
No, and it was just amazing. I couldn't believe that they were able to get such perfect clips.
Yeah. I think one thing that's also really neat about it, kind of a side note thing, well, actually two things. One is a story-related thing, one just kind of a cool detail. But the story-related thing is I kind of like how they make Doc's story parallel with Lightning's, or throughout the course of this movie. Like Lightning, he's looking back at what happened to Doc. It's like, wow, this is just like what's happening to me right now. How did he deal with this? Or what can I learn from what happened to him? Mm-hmm. I thought that was really well done. And then also just kind of the cool detail is that really back in the 60s, there were 3 actors who were really big into actual stock car racing. That's what they did in their spare time. And this movie kind of pays tribute to 2 of them over the course of the movie. One is Steve McQueen, who Steve McQueen was a big car racer, and obviously Lightning takes his last name from Steve McQueen, I'm sure.
Right.
And then Paul Newman was another of them. And so the fact that they were able to bring him back to this movie that's all about racing and about heritage, like older racers and stuff, it's just very appropriate and he's in this movie as well.
And there was one other sort of callback, I guess you might say, that meant something to me personally. It won't mean something to everybody, but when he recovers and Lightning goes to the Rusty's Corporation or whatever training grounds, and there you have Rusty and Dusty, who we've seen in the first movie, voiced by Tom and Ray Magliosi, and I love these guys. These guys were the Car Talk on NPR, and I'm not a car person, but their show was so funny and so just joyful. And I went through a pretty period of depression, and I'm not kidding. Like sometimes I would just listen to the Car Talk guys and they would just be the thing to like cheer me up. And so I have a very strong attachment to them. And so it made my heart really happy to see, because Tom has passed away. And so they obviously used his voice recordings as well as Paul Newman's. And so that was really a treat for me because they only had like 2 lines in the original film in the first movie, 2-3 lines, just one scene. Whereas this, they had quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think they got Ray to do most of the dialogue. You just hear Tom every once in a while, which makes sense because Tom is the one that's passed. But I don't know. That was really cool, I thought. And they tell Lightning that they've sold the company to this guy named Sterling.
Yeah.
Were you at all familiar with the Car Talk guys?
I had heard parts of their podcast, and I liked what I'd heard.
Yeah.
And I'd heard of Car Talk because I listen to other NPR podcasts, and they're very big on cross-promoting each other on those shows. At least on the ones I was listening to, they're very promoting others. So I knew of Car Talk. So
I think they still play reruns, I think, because that popular.
Yeah.
So.
I was thinking I need to listen to it. I was watching them on.
Yeah, they're great if you just need a pick-me-up. You just want something happy and joyful,
Yeah.
completely uncynical. So, and they even had the line, don't drive like my brother," which is their famous, iconic line. So that was all really fun for me. And we get to have Nathan Fillion as the voice of Sterling. And I kind of thought he was a confusing character because I felt like he's not really a full out villain, and Jackson, I think Storm is supposed to be sort of the villain character, but you have the Sterling character who's kind of a villain. I couldn't understand why he was doing what he was doing to Cruz. Was it just because Cruz was a female, or was it just because she was? Because he makes one comment about look at how you look. Says something about how you look. And so I was like, is it because she's like Ramirez is like I don't know. I just thought I couldn't figure out what his problem was. Like, why is he doing this? He's letting her train all of his cars, but he has this antagonism towards her. Anyway.
Yeah, it's weird. But it's funny, the moment he came on the screen, like, I wasn't sure about him, but I thought, I do not trust that guy. The moment he came on the screen, there was something about him. It was like, I don't trust him. Bad guy. Bad guy.
A very suspect car.
Yes, exactly. And I don't even know why. But
that is really funny. I think it's something about that Nathan Fillion vibes or something. I don't know. No. Anyway, so he was just sort of I'd say his character was a little inconsistent. It was kind of like he was whatever the story needed him to be at a particular moment. Like he'd be like encouraging, he would be a boss, he would be hard-nosed, he would be kind of racist, he would be sexist. Like it was just kind of whatever the story needed him to be. That's what Sterling was. So there you go. So this is where, once we start getting into this training sequences with Cruz training Lightning, this is the part that I thought was a little boring.
Yeah, I thought it was, I don't know. I want to say it was boring. I just think it went a little too long for me.
Yeah.
And it was like, because I thought the simulator thing looked really cool, and I love Lightning's reaction to it. Ooh, I want to do that the whole time. It's like, but then, like, I thought it was interesting, but then it kind of overplayed itself.
Yeah, and all the stuff on the beach, and I don't know. I started to get a little bored in those sequences. I don't know. What did you think of Cruz Ramirez as a character?
I liked her a lot. Like at first, when she first came on screen, there was something about her that was kind of annoying to me at the during like her first scene or two. But then, I don't know, she kind of grew on me over the course of the movie, I guess I would say.
Yeah. I really loved her vocal performance. It's by Cristela Alonso. I thought that helped a lot in making her really warm and really approachable, and just I think if they had gotten sort of an annoying voice, that would have made a huge difference in the character. But because it helped a lot for me to bond with her.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think part of that helped me bond with her is that she actually delivered the first joke that actually made me laugh out loud in the movie. Their little dance exercise thing. There's the lyrics to that about grabbing your lunch.
Yeah, it wasn't a very particularly funny movie. I think that they maybe rebounded off of Cars 2, which they made very funny. And here, it wasn't. I didn't feel like they tried as hard for laughs, and some of them didn't really land. But it wasn't a particularly funny movie. But then sports movies typically aren't, so maybe it makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, and then the few times when they were really trying to be really funny, it felt like they overstayed their welcome a little bit. Like the beach sequences, there were so many jokes there, and there was like about 4 too many jokes there. 4 or 5 too many different times where they went back to that same thing, I guess.
Agreed. So, okay, we have, let's see, and Cruz loves Lightning. She adores him. She looks up to him. We find out that she had one chance to race. It didn't work out, and she never got another chance ever again. And she hasn't been allowed. She's just a trainer. She's not a racer. And he thinks that she wants it that way, but it turns out she doesn't. But she's just kind of given up. And we end up getting to the Crazy 8 Demolition Derby, where they have Miss Fritter. What did you think of the Demolition Derby?
I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fun sequence to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was one where I wasn't really sure at first, like, how is this fitting into the into the movie? What is this movie trying to do? But, like, it was fun to watch, I think, and the characters were, I don't know, entertaining enough.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. I think it's fun to see the cars get all sort of dirty and have that environment. I did like Miss Fritter, that she was the school bus character, was fun.
Yeah, she was fun.
Yeah, and I guess the whole thing is you're supposed to buy that Cruz wins the Demolition Derby and gets this trophy, and like Lightning's jealous of the fact that she won, which seemed a little bit of a stretch to me. It's just like Demolition Derby, like calm down, Lightning. But anyway, he even destroys her trophy at a certain point. So it's like calm down. But
the other thing that kind of struck me as weird there is, like, why is it a big deal that he showed up at the Demolition Derby? Why does everybody act like that's a catastrophe?
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. He's at the Demolition Derby. I don't know. I guess there's something maybe redneck about that, or I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
I guess if you're a car and you're in a Demolition Derby, I guess that's if in a world of cars and a demo derby, I guess that's kind of. I guess that would put it in a different context.
Yeah, I mean, is it like sort of the car version of like backyard cockfighting or something like that? Maybe I don't know. I don't know. So okay, and so let's see. So they decide to seek out Smokey. And that's where you get Chris Cooper as the voice of Smokey. And I really liked some of these side characters that you got. Particularly, I liked Margot Martindale as this other female racer that had won some on the. Her name was Louise Barnstormer Nash. That she was kind of fun in that sort of group at the car bar.
Yeah,
we're good, and so. Basically, like, Smokey's job is to kind of remind, he's there to kind of teach Lightning a new way to race and to, use drafting and different ways of sort of outmaneuvering your opponent versus just pure speed, because he's never going to get the speed that Jackson has.
Yeah. And
so that was good. That was interesting. And also to kind of talk to him, his purpose, I think, is to talk to him about how much Lightning really did mean to Doc.
Yeah. And so. I think it's interesting. This is the other part of the movie where I was really thinking about sports movie parallels as I was watching it.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking at Smokey's character, and I was like, he is like a mix of all three of Rocky's trainers over the course of the franchise. Like, he's like doing the same thing Apollo was in Rocky 3, teaching him a new way to fight. But he's doing it, but he has like the old man personality of Burgess Meredith's character in the first movies. And then he's teaching him how to fight, not using, like, I don't know, trying to teach him different strengths, different ways of fighting, which his last trainer does in Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
So it's like they're doing all three of these things. And then, but that's kind of like a classic sports movie character, because he shows up in Rudy as well. I feel like the Charles S. Dutton character in Rudy, the black groundskeeper, kind of fulfills the same role as Smokey does.
You're 5 foot nothing, 120 nothing.
Yeah.
I got one speck of athletic ability. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love Rudy.
And then
Okay, good.
Cruz is kind of like the D-Bob character. I kind of look at her that way.
Yeah.
John
Uh,
Favreau.
okay, so then they get up to the race day, and we've seen little bits of the Radiator Springs crew. Did you wish that you could have seen more of the Radiator Springs crew, or were you okay with that?
I kind of wish I could have seen a little bit more. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's another direct result of the Cars 2 thing. Like, oh, people tend to criticize us because we put too much Mater in it. So let's scale back all the Radiator Springs stuff.
Yeah.
Which I wish I could have seen more. In fact, the biggest laugh I got from the movie was from one of the Radiator Springs characters, the old Model T character, when he's first leaving to go to the Demolition Derby. Have a good time at college, or whatever she said in the background. That was the biggest laugh I got from the movie.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I liked Luigi and Guido, I think his name is. They were fun. They had some fun scenes. And and I don't hate Mater as much as other people do, but so I thought he was okay. I thought he was fine. Used the right way in this film. Not too much of it like in 2.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought he had a really moving moment in this movie too, like a really good moment when Lightning calls his best friend up on the phone because he just needs someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And he and Mater have that really nice discussion about just what's going on. And I thought that was a really good way of using Mater, because he gives Lightning good advice, and he does it kind of in his own Mater-like way. He gives him good advice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a nice little moment. I think the kids will be able to really relate to that. Will like that. And let's be honest. I mean, people get all bent out of shape of animation is for kids or not for kids or whatever. But like the Cars movies are generally made for kids, and it's definitely the most kid-friendly franchise of any of the Pixar franchises. And so I think that they did a lot of things in here that the kids will really like. Maybe not the pacing. It might be a little hard for little kids, but I think they'll really like a lot of these themes and a lot of these characters and things like that. And so anyway, we get to the big race, and it's pretty amazing. I thought the actual race itself, it was very amazing, the animation, and it was very captivating. And it's going back and forth, and you get to a point where Lightning decides that he is going to let Cruz finish the race for him. That's how he's going to really make the difference, and that he is not going to, because he sees how Sterling is treating Cruz. Sterling is treating her very badly, making her he wants her to leave anyway, and so she ends up finishing the race. The two of them are declared the victors, and so you get this kind of nice moment. What do you think of all that?
I thought it was neat. I wasn't expecting it at all. I was like, and when that happened, I'm like, oh, that's how all these different plot elements kind of click together. At the very end, it was like, oh, finally it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, so I thought that was neat. And I like the theme of kind of passing the torch along, in a way, kind of like Doc did for Lightning himself, and that's another way that their stories parallel throughout the movie.
Yeah, and I think that little girls will have, some people were like way overthinking it, driving me crazy. At first they were like, well, are they trying to inject feminism into the movie? I'm like, oh. But I think little girls will really like that, and will enjoy Cruz as a character, and will be motivated by that ending. I think they'll like it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, let's see here.
And that's the moment when they really make Jackson Storm the full-on villain. Like, there's no more pretend. He's not putting on a false face anymore. And I think Armie Hammer was a perfect choice to voice that character too, even though you don't get to hear much of him, because he kind of has that high school jock kind of voice, kind of haughty. even though he doesn't seem to be that way at all, like in real life. But he has that look about him, even though it doesn't really matter in an animated movie.
Yeah.
But his voice has that vibe.
I also really liked you had the moment with the Kerry Washington car. What was her name? Natalie Certain. When she sees Cruz, and she says something like, "Oh," you get this sort of impression of like, this means something. And I after having experienced Wonder Woman and the experience of sort of seeing a strong female character, I've really related to that expression of like, I didn't know I needed this until I got it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's something powerful about that. And I guess I really liked that little moment that we got with her.
Yeah, and I kind of got the impression from that, maybe this is just me reading too much into that moment, but I kind of got the impression like this is something that she really wanted to do too, and that's why she became kind of an analyst, so she could stay in that world. And then kind of seeing it kind of helped her realize, hey, wait a minute, I can do this too, It was empowering to her. That's kind of what I got from that.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that there is something powerful about seeing strong characters of our own that we can relate to, whether it's our, sex or ethnicity or whatever it might be. That it means something, and it's hard for people that aren't in that minority group to understand how meaningful that is. And like I said, I didn't even know, not that being female is that much a minority, but I didn't even know that it would be that powerful for me until I actually saw it, and then I was like, wow, this meant a lot to me.
Yeah, definitely.
So I thought that was really cool. And let's see here. So then we do get sort of the ending is that Cruz decides to work for Dynaco, and instead of going with Sterling because he's such a jerk. And it's kind of, then you get kind of our ending. And there is a end credits scene. Did you stay around for the ending?
I did not. I should have. I was thinking I should stay, but
it's just a little joke, a little Mater joke at the very, very, very end. So it's not too important, but anyway. So yeah, that's kind of the film. How do you deal with sort of the inconsistencies and weirdness of the Cars world? Does it bother you at all, or are you able to just?
It kind of bothers me in a way, but not when I'm watching the movie, if that makes sense. It's kind of like Alfred Hitchcock used to talk about what he called refrigerator moments or icebox moments, which are like little inconsistencies or little plot problems that you don't think about until you're home and you're opening the fridge for your midnight snack later that evening, and you're like, well, wait a minute. How does that work?
That's a good way to describe it.
That's kind of the way I look at a lot of the Cars inconsistencies. It's kind of like, they don't matter to me when I'm watching the movie, but afterwards when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait a minute, how does that work? Kind of like the Demolition Derby thing we were talking about. Like, maybe that is a big deal if you're a talking car and you're deliberately putting yourself in this place, you're going to sustain all this damage. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like for instance, here's an example. They have a scene where Smokey shows Lightning all of these letters that Doc wrote to him and pictures and clips and stuff that he sent him about Lightning. And how could Doc Hudson have written a letter? Like, that makes no sense.
Let alone cut a clipping out of a newspaper.
Yeah, and how could they possibly type anything into make a newspaper? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And they couldn't even take a photograph. They have no hands. Yeah. Like every once in a while they'll try to do like a high five with the wheels, but it doesn't really work to write a letter.
It was like, well, with that, I don't know, maybe they hold a pencil in their teeth or something when they write, but it's very easy to read when you're done.
Yeah, I mean, you start on this, you can just you can go down the rabbit hole so fast, it's just like, how do they make pencils then? Who is manufacturing the factories that make pencils? Any of the items in Cars, where do they come from? Who makes them? who makes the cars themselves or the car parts? Who decides that a car is, because we have a Model T that's still alive, but then we have a car that's died. Obviously, we know why, because of Paul Newman. But I don't know. It's just, there's so many funny things. It's like, and Cruz says that she grew up admiring Lightning. So was she like little? Because we see baby cars.
Yeah. That is what I thought of when we were watching the movie. Like, how did you grow up? You were manufactured.
Because in the Robots movie, I actually think Robots is pretty underrated. I really like it. And what they do for that movie is they literally get like a upgraded kit. It's like, time for your 5-year kit, time for your 7-year kit. And that's how they kind of work around it there. But here, they don't even really try to answer any of those questions. And so you just have to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
And not care, because it's just a movie about cars.
Yeah. It's funny. There's one that, it wasn't in this movie, actually. It was in Cars 2, but since we're talking about the whole franchise, basically, here we can talk about it. Or I guess there's a point in Cars 2 where they imply that the cars were made by humans. At some point, there were humans once in this Cars world. And I was like, because they show like a car in a factory, I guess, or something, and it has like regular headlights and like a regular window. And I was like, so what did the car...
it's right before they go, they're trying to find the they're in the Cars 2, they get this picture of this engine, and they're trying to find out where these parts came from. And so they end up going to this kind of like flea market, I guess. And so there's like black market parts or something. And they end up, that's when they show this brief little clip of this car that has like seats and has like, it's a car, but then the front lights have eyes. So it's like this middle ground car.
And it's like, that's strange. And like to me, I saw that on Twitter. Somebody tweeted about that. And I was like, that's actually kind of scary when you think about it. And like, people talk about the love bug being like the precursor to the Cars movies.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like Christine is more of a likely precursor. It's like, what happened to the humans? Did the cars kill them all or something?
They did on Movie Fights. I don't know if you ever listened to Movie Fights, but they did they did explain the Cars world, and they had some good explanations. But I would say my explanation is just that Andy from Toy Story has started to play with toys, with toy cars, and he has dreams about them being alive. And I know that's totally a cop-out to make a dream world, but it makes the most sense.
Yeah. And it's not terrifying to think about.
Yeah. So he has this dream that the cars are alive, and that's part of his play, because we know he's a very imaginative kid.
Yeah.
So that's my explanation. But I just think, you kind of have to just suspend your disbelief and just try to have fun with it. So I think with this movie, my feeling is if you hate the Cars movies, then this movie is not going to win you over, in my opinion. If you are sort of ambivalent about them, or you liked the first one, hated the second one, I think you might like this. If you're an animation junkie, or a huge Pixar fan, you don't mind then I think you definitely will like it. But I don't think I was sort of hoping that this would be so great that it would win everyone over. This would be like, that this would get like 80% on Tomatoes, 90%. It would be this sort of big redemption, but it's more sort of like a middle level redemption, I would say. It's like a solid base hit kind of redemption. Yeah.
I used to get kind of irritated when people would rip on the first Cars movie, like, but everybody liked it before Cars 2 came out. It seemed like.
That's true.
But I kind of have come to realize that I think part of my big reason for liking Cars so much is that it's just a personal thing for me. Because my dad is very much someone who likes to go exploring, like in just around the country, like back roads and stuff like that in these small towns. And he's very much a car person. He made his living in the automotive industry. So it's like, I think that the reason I love cars so much is because it reminds me of my life in a way. Not that I grew up in a world with living cars. That sounds weird to say about a movie with talk.
No, I mean, I totally get it. There's a real sense of nostalgia for the first Cars movie. And so I think a lot of people felt that way. If you read Roger Ebert, oddly enough, gave positive reviews to both Cars and Cars 2. He gave, I think, 3.5 out of 4 to Cars 2. It was a strong recommendation. He liked it. And which is what I like about Roger. He just told it like he saw it. And, we forget that Cars was nominated for an Academy Award. Like it's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Like it's a good film. But I do think that you're right that Cars 2 kind of gave maybe a bit of a stink onto the first Cars for some people. Yeah. I think that's true. So I guess, were there anything else that sort of stuck out to you about the animation or the music or anything like that you want to talk about?
Let me see what I wrote on my notes. I think we covered most of the things on my notes.
So one cool thing about the music is that this one had 2 albums, I guess. 2 soundtracks, and one has all of the score from Randy Newman, which I thought was really good, and it felt a little bit different from him. And like I said, the Cars movies are well known for their good soundtracks. I guess one of the better things about it. But this one, it had some really cool redos of songs like Glory Days by Andra Day. I like that. Drive My Car, Jorge Blanco. It's a really good. I've downloaded because it's a really good album. There's 2 Brad Paisley songs, and he's been in every Cars movie. So it's a good soundtrack. Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of Bruce Springsteen, so I love the fact that they covered him in this movie, and you actually got to hear the song really well too.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's kind of interesting that hardly anybody's ever done a country western version of Bruce, but I think he translates well, and it translated well here, I think.
Yeah, me too. I really liked it. It was cool. And then they have Ride to ZZ Ward. That was cool. I mean, it was just, it's a good soundtrack.
Yeah. And it was nice to hear a Randy Newman score in a Pixar movie again, because Michael Giacchino kind of seems like he's become the Pixar guy now, except for The Good Dinosaur. But it just kind of felt to me like classic Pixar in a way. Like, you can hear Randy Newman's style in it. And I was like, this feels like old Pixar. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I liked it too. I thought it was really good. And so yeah, and like I said, the animation was just top notch, amazing. There were parts that looked so real. And
yeah. Ooh, that is one thing I wanted to talk about. It was on my notes. Is that Great Smoky Mountains setting when they first come into the mountains, and you see they're all kind of like that blue twilight look, and you see all the fog and everything. I thought that looked really, really cool. And in a weird way, it kind of felt homey to me, even though I've never lived in that part of the country. It was like, this feels warm and homey to me. Kind of this backcountry kind of mountainous kind of area. I don't know.
I agree. It did for me as well. So, it was really nice, and a nice moment. It just felt so like when they're going around the smoky racetrack or whatever it's called. Like, I don't know, just the wood and the signs and just everything looked so good. So they just did an amazing job, and I think they should be really proud of themselves. I really do. I think they had every reason to shoot. They had everybody doubting them, I guess, with this movie, and a lot of people saying that it was going to suck and it was going to be horrible and whatever. And I think that they did a great job, and Like I said, it may not be the greatest Pixar movie ever, but I think it's a really entertaining little movie, and I think they should be proud of themselves. They did a really good job.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So,
Lots of. Oh, just one more thing about the racetracks and stuff I was thinking of. I like how you can tell they put a lot of local color and stuff in a way into like both the Demolition Derby track and all of the Smoky Mountains stuff. It felt like they had been. You could tell they had been to these places themselves, and really studied just the culture of these areas and stuff. And
I agree.
You can really see that.
Yeah, definitely. But, it was just a labor of love. You could tell. And I appreciated that about it because even though I defend Cars 2, it didn't have that same sort of feeling of a labor of love, even though I know that John Lasseter loved it. Yeah. But I don't know, just hard in a spy movie to have that same sort of feeling. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, I think that we pretty much covered everything in the film. And out of like 1 to 10, what would you give this Cars 3?
Probably a 7 or a 7.5 around there. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not my favorite Pixar movie. That is still not Cars 3. That's what we were talking about. Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3 is your favorite.
Yeah, and I don't think anything will top that for me. Mm-hmm. But at least I don't foresee anything topping that. But this is good. It's just a solid, middle of the road, good movie.
Yeah, I think 7.5 is right on. That's what I would say as well. And my favorite is Up. Up is my favorite movie, and it's my favorite Pixar movie. And then I always say I have like a 10-car pileup for number 2 because I just love so many of those movies that it's really hard. But yeah, Toy Story 3 is great. So I think that's good. So where can people find you?
You can find me at vintagevestibule.wordpress.com. And that's where I've been doing most of my writing lately. I started a new series where I watch a movie that I haven't seen for the first time. Let me see if I can word this correctly. They're not new movies. That's kind of the point of the of the series. They're classic movies that I haven't seen before. I watch them for the first time and then I review them. There we go. That's what it is.
And I really enjoyed that. I do the same thing once a month on my blog where I do a blind spot, I call it, a blind spot pick. I just posted last night, actually, my review of Paths of Glory, which was my blind spot for this month. So it is really fun to go back and watch those classics you haven't seen.
Yeah, like I have 2 reviews coming up, actually. One is almost finished. It's The Absent-Minded Professor.
Oh, fun.
And then the other one is way different than The Absent-Minded Professor. It's actually a horror comedy. It's a little bit more horror, called An American Werewolf in London from 1981.
I've heard that's really good. I've never seen it. So
it is really good. There are parts, I don't know, it's gory in parts, but overall it's good.
Cool. So. Well, we'll have all that information in the description section, so check that out. Check out AJ's blog, and you'll have my information. You can find me at all social medias at Smiling LDS Girl, and my blog is 54 Disney Reviews. And we have an exciting week coming up as far as the podcast. We have a Doctor Who podcast probably on Wednesday, the latest episode. With me and Jonathan North. And then next Saturday, we are starting our first episode of the Superhero Showdown. I've been doing it on my Twitter, but we're going to be doing our own sort of mini version here. So it should be really fun. So look forward to that.
Sorry, go ahead. I keep feeling like I interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, and you pitted my 2 favorite superhero movies against each other, so only one could win.
It's a brutal game. So, all right. Well, thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate it. And thanks for watching and talking with me about Cars 3.
No thanks. No thanks. Thank you for inviting me. No problem.